Hi, welcome to EDSC 520. It is week 2. So during this week, let's talk about what is due. So this week you have your chapter readings, chapters 4, 5, and 6. And then you also have a discussion board interviewing children. So we'll briefly go over some important information for chapters 4, 5, and 6. In chapter 4, we're talking about validity. And validity just talks about the concerns, what an instrument measures, and how well it does it. It is not something that has or does not have. It informs the counselor when it's appropriate to use an instrument and what can be inferred from those test results. And reliability is a prerequisite for validity. So those are the important things to remember about that. The chapter does go over just validity evidence, evidence based on testing content, response processes, internal structure, relations to other variables, and evidence based on consequence testing. It also goes into the different types of variables on those subject areas and how an item is analyzed on that particular test, which the item difficulty, the discrimination process, and the response theory. So all of the chapter covers just what exactly is validity and then how it is measured, all right? In chapters 5, we're talking about the ethical and legal issues for different types of assessments. The ethics are the body of principles that address the proper conduct, and the laws are related to a body of rules that address the proper conduct. So our ASCA is our code of conduct for ethics. And these are the ASCA Counseling Association Code of Ethics. And it talks about competency to use and interpret assessment instruments, informed consent, release of data to the qualified personnel, diagnosis of mental disorders, instrument selection, and conditions. Now, we don't diagnose people, but we do use these assessments. And so what's important for us is that we understand how to explain the assessment to our clients, and also that we know how the assessment and what it measures. It also goes into the code of multicultural issues and diversity in assessment, scoring and interpretation of assessments, assessment security, obsolete assessments, outdated instruments, and assessment constructs and forensic evaluation. So we have to give our clients rights and responsibilities with those, and those are given, are also in our ethical guidelines. And then sometimes there's legal issues with assessment. So there's specific legislation that different governmental bodies pass laws on to stop us from using particular assessments. It gave some examples, like the Civil Rights Act of 1991. It outlawed discriminations in employment based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin. It requires hiring procedures to be connected to the duties of the job, and it bans separate norms in employment registration and testing. The Americans with Disabilities Act amendments of 2008, it helped more Americans likely to qualify as disabled to be further protected by those discriminations. And we also had the Family Education Rights of Privacy Act, FERPA, and this is a really important one for everyone in the workplace. that provides parents access to their children's educational records, provides students over the age of 18 access to their own educational records, and it specifies what an educational record is and which ones can be released and which ones cannot without parental permission. And it states that no student shall be required without parental permission to submit a psychological assessment, examination, testing, or treatment. So the FERPA Act is something that we really need to familiarize ourselves with. There's also HIPAA that states that a client must be notified about how psychological and medical information can be used and disclosed, and how to get that information, get access to that information. So these are important legal documents that legal guidelines for us to familiarize ourselves with as school counselors. Okay, and then finally, in chapter 6, we're talking about issues that are related to assessment with different diverse populations. So we want to take in consideration when we're using standards for educational and psychological testing, the fairness of it, the constructs, the irrelevant variance, the accessibility, and the universal design. We also need to know about adaptation, the changes to the originals in terms of design and administration to increase the accessibility to the individuals, accommodations, and modifications. It goes over the cultural and assessments, the influences on all aspects of the individual, and problems that can occur with that particular instrument that does not consider a particular cultural difference, and making sure that we're aware of their our clients' belief system, values, and orientations, including customs, norms, practices, and social institutions. We also want to be aware of content bias and internal structures, right? So that's chapters 4, 5, and 6, which is due during week 2. Again, you just have discussion boards. Your first assignment is due week 3. So if you have a little extra time, please do try to begin working on assignment number 1, which is due week 3. Thank you.